Jax's revenge domain. We're giving your division to my nephew Kevin. You're clearly not the right fit to lead it anymore. Brian Rogers said it like he was ordering coffee. Just stated it matter of fact while I sat there in that boardroom with 12 other executives watching. His nephew Kevin sat 3 chairs down, leaning back like he already owned the place. 26 years old, fresh MBA, had that look people get when they've never been told no. Someone shifted in their chair. Nobody would look at me. 10 years I'd spent building this supply chain division from nothing, and he was taking it away in one sentence. Congratulations to him, I said. I even smiled. Kevin nodded like I was being reasonable, like I understood my place. Let me back up. My name's Michael, I'm 48, and this happened 2 years ago when I was still working for someone else. Here's how I got there. 10 years before that moment, Premier Supply Solutions brought me in to handle a part of their business nobody wanted to touch. It was broken. The relationships with suppliers were a disaster. Half wanted to walk away completely. The other half only stayed because they had contracts they couldn't break yet. Brian told me during my first week, fix it or we shut it down. You have 6 months. I didn't fix it in 6 months. I rebuilt it from scratch in 2 years. Every single supplier I met with personally, not in fancy conference rooms. I went to their warehouses, their offices, sat with them and learned how they actually worked, what they needed, what they'd been asking for that nobody listened to. There was this guy, Ryan Martinez, ran one of our biggest distribution operations. First time I met him, he said, "You're the 4th person they've sent in 2 years. Why should I believe you're different?" I told him. Because I'm not here to manage you. I'm here to make sure we don't waste your time anymore. Took 3 months before Ryan trusted me. But after that, he'd answer when I called, not because of contracts, because he knew I'd never promise something I couldn't deliver. That's how I built all 21 partnerships. One conversation at a time. One promise kept at a time. Look, by year 3, our division was making more than any other part of the business. By year 6, we doubled that. By year 10, we were bringing in 40% of Premier's total revenue. Brian never said thank you, not once. He'd show up twice a year, walk around for an hour, then leave. Didn't know the names of people who worked under me, didn't know how anything functioned, just saw numbers going up and assumed it happened automatically. But I didn't care about being thanked. I cared about building something that worked, something that mattered to the 85 people in my division. Then 4 months before that boardroom meeting, something happened that changed everything. I was having breakfast at this small place I liked near the industrial district. Quiet, good coffee, decent food. Been going there for years. That morning, someone sat down in the booth behind me, heard him order, heard his voice, and recognized it immediately. Scott Phillips, he ran our biggest competitor. We'd never met face to face, but I'd heard him speak at industry events. Smart guy, direct, didn't play games, 25 years in the business. I almost left. Then he turned around and said, "You're Michael, right? From Brian's operation?" I nodded. "Mind if I join you?" "Not for business, just curious about something." He moved to my booth, ordered more coffee. Then he said something I wasn't expecting. "How long do you think you have before he finds a way to push you out?" I must have looked confused because he continued. "Brian Rogers. I've watched him do this for 15 years. Find someone capable, let them build something valuable, then hand it to someone in his family or someone who owes him. Happened to 4 people I know personally. You've been there 10 years. Your division's successful. You're about to become inconvenient. Why would I be inconvenient? Because you know too much. Because people respect you more than they respect him. Because at some point you might realize you have leverage and he can't control that." I didn't believe him at first. Thought maybe he was trying to recruit me or mess with my head. But something about the way he said it stayed with me. We kept talking, not about work, about how things actually operated in our industry, about the people who made everything possible behind all the official business, about how relationships were more valuable than anything else. When we finished, he said, "If I'm wrong about Brian, I apologize for wasting your time, but if I'm right and you ever want to talk, here's how to reach me." He wrote down a personal number on a napkin, not a business line, just his direct contact. I kept that napkin. 2 weeks later, Brian mentioned during a casual conversation that his nephew was finishing his MBA soon. Said Kevin was really sharp and ready to lead something significant. That's when I knew Scott had been right, so I reached out. Met Scott for breakfast again. This time I asked questions. What would happen if certain suppliers decided to work with someone else? How difficult would it be to establish those relationships from scratch? What would it take to make that transition smooth for everyone involved? Scott listened. Then he said, "You're not talking about changing jobs. You're talking about something else." "I'm talking about what happens when the foundation gets pulled out," I said. "When someone who doesn't understand how things work tries to run something built on trust." He leaned forward. "Keep talking." Over the next 4 months, I met with Scott 11 times. We never discussed anything illegal, never talked about stealing information or breaking agreements. We talked about relationships, about the 21 partnerships that made my division function, about how those weren't contracts you could just transfer to someone new. They were built on years of showing up, keeping promises, being someone people could trust. I introduced Scott to 6 of those suppliers, just casual conversations. "This is someone I respect, someone who understands how important you are to everything we do." That's all I said. But that was enough. They met him, they talked, they saw what I saw, someone who actually cared about building things properly. I never told them to leave, never suggested they break their agreements. I just made sure they knew there was someone else who valued what they did, someone who'd treat them the way they deserved. Then came that morning boardroom meeting. 4 months of preparation, and I still felt my stomach twist when Brian said those words. "We're giving your division to my nephew. You're clearly not the right fit to lead it anymore." Everyone in that room knew it was garbage. They'd watched me build everything, watched the division grow year after year, but nobody said anything. Nobody was going to challenge Brian Rogers. He owned 60% of the company. He could do whatever he wanted. Kevin sat there looking pleased with himself, like he'd accomplished something. After the meeting ended, people came up to me quietly. "This isn't right. We know what you built here. This is wrong." I thanked them, told them it was fine, told them to support Kevin and help him succeed. But I wasn't fine. I was furious, not just at losing what I'd built, at the disrespect, at the lie that I wasn't capable when everyone knew the truth, at watching someone who'd done nothing get handed something they didn't understand and couldn't possibly run. Brian pulled me aside after everyone left. "I hope you understand this is just business," he said. "Kevin needs experience running something substantial. Your division's perfect for that." "I understand completely," I said. "Good. You'll stay on for 2 weeks to help him transition, show him how everything operates, introduce him to your contacts." "Of course." He actually looked relieved, like he'd expected me to fight and was happy I was being professional. That Friday, Kevin gave a speech to everyone in the division, talked about new energy and innovative approaches, used a lot of words that didn't mean anything. People clapped because you clap when the boss's nephew speaks. That's how it works. I spent that afternoon clearing out my workspace. 10 years of work, and it fit into 3 boxes. People kept stopping by, asking if I was okay, telling me they'd miss working with me. Jessica Williams, who'd been my operations manager for 7 years, said quietly, "You'll be fine." I told her, "Just do your job the way you always have." But we both knew that wasn't going to work, because doing the job the way we always had meant relying on relationships that Kevin didn't have and couldn't build in time. I went home that evening and sat in the dark. 10 years of work, gone in 1 sentence. My phone buzzed. A message from Scott. "How did it go?" I wrote back, "Exactly like you said. He announced it today. Kevin takes over Monday. Are you ready?" I looked at that. I looked. Message for a long time. Was I ready? Ready to watch something I built fall apart? Ready to let 21 partnerships I'd spent years creating move on to someone who'd treat them properly? Ready to show Brian what happens when you hand something valuable to someone who doesn't understand its value? I wrote back, "Yes." That weekend felt strange. Saturday morning I woke up and didn't have anywhere I needed to be for the first time in 10 years. No messages to check, no problems to solve, no suppliers calling about delivery schedules or logistics issues. I made breakfast slowly, sat on my balcony, watched people going about their normal Saturday lives. Around noon, my phone rang. "Ryan Martinez. I wanted to call before anything official happens," he said. "Just to say working with you these past 9 years meant something. You treated us like partners, not just people filling orders." "It meant something to me too," I said. "This new guy, the nephew, you think he understands how things work?" "No," I said, honestly. "But that's not my problem anymore." There was a pause. What if it became someone else's opportunity instead? "What do you mean?" "I mean, I've been talking to some people People who understand how to build relationships properly. People who remind me of you, Scott Phillips. I know Scott, I said. I introduced you to him. Yes. We met a few weeks ago. He's different from most people in this business. Reminds me of why I got into this work in the first place. He's good people, I said. So I've been thinking. My contract with Premier ends Monday morning. Technically, there's a renewal clause, but it requires both parties to agree. What if I just don't agree? That's your choice to make, I said carefully. It is, and I'm making it. Just wanted you to know. After he hung up, 4 more suppliers called that day. Similar conversations, thanking me, mentioning they'd met Scott, asking careful questions about what I thought they should do. I didn't tell them to leave. I didn't have to. They'd already decided. They just wanted me to know they remembered who'd actually valued their work all these years. Sunday evening, Scott called. Tomorrow's going to be intense. You sure you want to watch this happen? I built it, I said. I should see what happens when someone breaks it. Fair enough. Just remember, once this starts, there's no stopping it. Those relationships are going to walk. The division's going to struggle. People who work there, people you hired and trained, they're going to suffer too. I'd thought about that. Thought about Jessica and the others who'd trusted me, who'd worked hard and didn't deserve to get caught in this. I know, I said, but Brian made his choice. He decided someone who'd never built anything deserved to run something that took years to create. Now he gets to learn what that actually costs. Monday morning, I didn't go anywhere near the office. Stayed home, made coffee, tried to read, couldn't focus on the words. Around 10 a.m., my old work phone started buzzing. I'd kept it over the weekend in case anyone needed something. Message after message from numbers I recognized. Kevin's assistant, the operations manager, even Brian's direct line. I turned it off around 11 a.m. Scott sent a message around noon. It's happening. 5 suppliers confirmed they're out this morning. 2 more this afternoon. Kevin's panicking. I could picture Kevin in that office, probably surrounded by people trying to explain why everything was falling apart on his first real day, probably blaming them, probably calling his uncle. By evening, Scott sent another update. 8 total so far. He's trying to call the suppliers directly. They're not picking up. Word is Brian got involved around 3 p.m., started making threats about contracts and legal action. Will that work? I asked. Against people who technically fulfilled their agreements and chose not to renew? No, it's just noise. Desperation. Tuesday morning, I finally turned my old work phone back on. 47 messages. I didn't read most of them, but I read the one from Brian. We need to talk. This situation with our suppliers is critical. I know you have relationships with these people. I need you to help fix this. I wrote back, I don't work there anymore. You made that clear Friday. His response came immediately. This isn't about ego. This is about the business, about the people who still work here. Be professional. Be professional. That's what he said. After humiliating me in front of everyone, after lying about my capabilities, after handing everything I built to someone who couldn't run it, I didn't respond. Around noon, Sarita called. My old admin assistant. Her voice sounded tired. It's chaos here. Nobody knows what to do. We have orders we can't fill. Kevin keeps having meetings, but nothing changes. He asked me this morning how to contact Posh Martinez. I told him I didn't have that information. You did the right thing, I said. Did I? Because people are worried about their jobs now. If this division fails, what happens to us? That hit hard. She was right. I'd wanted Rupert and Kevin to face consequences, but the people who'd worked with me, who'd trusted me, they'd face consequences too. I'm sorry, I said. I didn't want this to hurt you. I know. But it is hurting us. And I need you to know that. After she hung up, I sat there feeling sick. Scott had warned me people I cared about were going to get caught in this. I'd known that, but knowing it and feeling it are different things. Wednesday morning brought more messages. Kevin, this time, please. I know you're upset about how things went. I get it, but I need help. These suppliers won't talk to me. They won't even answer when I call. You built these relationships. You must know how to fix this. I stared at that message for a long time. Part of me felt something like sympathy. He was 26. He didn't ask for this. His uncle put him in a position he wasn't ready for, and now he was drowning. But then I remembered him sitting there, grinning while Brian said I wasn't capable. Remembered him nodding like I was being reasonable when I congratulated him. He'd accepted something he didn't earn, and now he had to live with what that meant. I didn't respond. That afternoon, Scott called. It's officially a disaster. 12 suppliers have pulled out completely. 2 more are talking about it. The division can't operate. They're going to have to breach contracts with their buyers because they can't deliver. You know what that means? Legal problems, financial penalties, reputation damage. Exactly. And it all traces back to one decision: giving something complex to someone inexperienced. How's Brian handling it? Badly. He gave a statement this morning blaming supplier greed. Said they're taking advantage of a transition period, trying to paint himself as the victim. Will anyone believe that? The people who matter? No. They know how this business works. They know relationships don't disappear overnight unless something broke them. And everyone knows what broke them. Thursday, I finally went outside, took a long walk through the city, tried to clear my head, tried to figure out how I felt about what was happening. I'd wanted Brian to face consequences. I'd wanted him to understand that you can't just hand something valuable to someone unqualified and expect it to work. I'd wanted Kevin to realize that respect isn't inherited. But I hadn't fully considered the cost. The people who'd worked with me were suffering. The buyers who depended on us were suffering. Even some of the suppliers who'd built their operations around our partnership were having to scramble to redirect their resources. Scott had been right. Once it started, there was no stopping it. Friday morning, exactly 1 week after Kevin took over, Brian called me directly. I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. "You did this," he said. "No greeting, no pretense. You poisoned those relationships before you left. You sabotaged my nephew." "I didn't do anything," I said calmly. "I introduced people to each other, that's all. What they chose to do after that was their decision. Don't play games with me. Those suppliers trusted you. You used that trust to destroy what we built." "What we built?" I said. "You didn't build anything. You showed up twice a year and took credit for work you didn't do. I built those relationships. Me. Over 10 years of actually showing up and keeping my word. Those people trusted me because I earned it. Something Kevin will never understand. He's young. He's learning. You could help him instead of watching him fail. Like you helped me when you announced I wasn't capable in front of everyone. When you lied about my abilities to justify giving my work to someone in your family." Silence on the other end. "Those people didn't leave because I sabotaged anything," I continued. "They left because they knew what was coming. They knew someone who didn't understand or value their work was taking over. They knew they'd be treated like replaceable parts instead of partners, so they made a choice, just like you made a choice last Friday." "This isn't over," Brian said. "You're right," I said. "It's not." I hung up, sat there shaking. Not from fear, from finally saying what I'd wanted to say for 10 years. Every time he'd taken credit for my work, every time he dismissed what actually made things function, every time he'd acted like success happened automatically. That evening, Scott sent a final message. "It's done. Kevin's being moved to a different role. Brian announced it an hour ago, called it a strategic reassignment. The division's being restructured, which means they're trying to figure out how to salvage what's left." "How long did he last?" I asked. 23 days. 23 days. That's how long it took for 10 years of work to fall apart when someone who didn't understand it tried to run it. I should have felt satisfied, should have felt vindicated. Part of me did, but mostly I felt tired of fighting. Tired of watching people who'd never built anything think they deserved to lead. Tired of a system that valued connections over competence. Saturday morning, 1 week and 1 day after everything started falling apart, Jessica called again. "They want to hire you back," she said. "Brian's offering to reinstate you. Same position, probably more money. He's desperate." "What did you tell him?" I told him I'd pass along the message. I didn't tell him what I actually think, which is that you should never work for someone who disrespected you like that. "Thank you," I said. "So what are you going to do?" I looked out my window, watched the afternoon light spread over the buildings, thought about 10 years of work that disappeared in 23 days, thought about Brian's voice saying I wasn't the right fit, thought about Kevin's grin. "I'm going to let them figure it out themselves," I said. "You won't even consider it?" "No, because if I go back, nothing changes. Brian learns he can disrespect people as long as he apologizes when it's convenient. And the next person he decides isn't useful anymore gets treated the same way I did. So what will you do now?" That was the question, wasn't it? I'd spent 4 months planning how to pull everything apart. I'd spent 23 days watching it happen. but I hadn't spent much time thinking about what came after. I don't know yet, I admitted, but it won't be there. Over the next few weeks, I started getting calls from other people in the business, people who'd heard what happened. Some offered sympathy, others offered jobs. One woman who ran a mid-sized operation said, "What you did took guts. Most people would have just quit and complained. You actually did something about it." "I didn't do anything illegal," I said. "I know. That's what makes it brilliant. You just let the truth show itself, that someone who doesn't understand relationships can't maintain them, that respect matters more than authority, that you can't transfer trust like you transfer a title." Those conversations helped. Reminded me that what I'd done wasn't petty, it was necessary, because people like Brian needed to understand there were consequences for treating people like they were disposable. About a month after everything fell apart, I met Scott for breakfast again, same place where this all started. "So," he said, "what now?" "I've been thinking about that," I said. "I could work for someone else, build another division for another person who'd probably take credit for it eventually. Or I could do something different, something where the relationships I build stay mine." Scott smiled. "You're thinking of starting your own operation?" "Maybe. Small at first, working directly with suppliers and buyers without all the layers in between. Being honest about what I can deliver and when. Building something based on trust instead of just contracts. That's harder than working for someone else," Scott said. "You'll be responsible for everything, the successes and the failures." "I know. But at least nobody can take it away and give it to their nephew." He laughed at that. "Fair point, and for what it's worth, I think you'd be good at it. The suppliers I've started working with, they ask about you constantly, where you ended up, if you're okay. They respect you more than they ever respected Brian. How are they doing with the transition? Better than expected. They appreciate being valued, being treated like their work matters, which is exactly what you showed them for 10 years. That felt good to hear. I'd worried that pulling those relationships away had hurt them too. But Scott was right. They were doing fine. Better even. Because they were working with someone who understood what they brought to the table. 2 months after I left, I ran into someone from my old division at a shop in the market area. His name was Alex Thompson. He'd worked under me for 6 years. "How are things?" I asked. He shook his head. "Honestly? Bad. They brought in someone new to run the division after Kevin got moved, but half of the staff left. The culture's completely different. Everyone's just trying not to get blamed for problems they didn't create." "And you?" "I'm looking for something else. Most of us are. Nobody trusts Brian anymore. He showed us what he thinks of loyalty." "I'm sorry," I said. "You got caught up in something that wasn't your fault." "It wasn't yours either," Alex said. "You didn't humiliate yourself in front of everyone. You didn't give away something valuable to someone unqualified. You didn't create this mess. Brian did. We all know that." After he left, I thought about what he'd said, about loyalty, about trust, about how once you break those things, you can't just fix them by throwing money at the problem or making speeches about professionalism. Brian had thought he could treat people however he wanted because he had power. He'd thought relationships were just business arrangements that could be transferred from one person to another. He'd thought competence didn't matter, as long as you had authority. He was wrong, and now he was living with the consequences. 3 months after everything happened, I officially started my own operation. Nothing fancy, just me and a few key relationships. Working directly with suppliers and buyers who wanted someone they could trust. Someone who'd show up when things went wrong. Someone who kept their word. Ryan was my first partner, then 3 others from my old network. Not all of them could switch immediately. Some had agreements to honor first, but they made it clear they'd rather work with me directly than through someone like Brian. Here's the thing about building something from nothing the second time. It's different. The first time I'd been trying to prove myself, trying to show I could fix something broken. This time I was building on a foundation I already had. Relationships that had survived everything. Trust that didn't disappear just because my title changed. It was slower than before, harder in some ways. I didn't have the resources of a large operation behind me, but it was mine. Every success, every failure, every decision, all mine. 6 months after leaving Premier, I heard through someone that Brian's company had lost 35% of its supply chain capacity. The division I'd built never recovered. Too many broken relationships. Too much damage to their reputation in an industry where word travels fast. Some people might have felt satisfied hearing that. I didn't feel satisfied. I felt sad that it had to happen. Sad that 10 years of building something good ended because one man thought family connections mattered more than competence. But I also felt something else. Relief. Relief that I never had to work for someone again who treated experience like it was disposable. Relief that I'd finally learned the difference between building something for someone else and building something that couldn't be taken away. That's the real lesson here. It's not about revenge. It's about understanding your worth and refusing to let anyone convince you that loyalty means accepting disrespect. Sometimes the only way to show people what you built is to let them try to run it without you. And sometimes that's exactly what they deserve.